We've got news on Connor McDavid's injury. We have a wonderful send-off in Pittsburgh for Marc-Andre Fleury. Alex Ovechkin scores 2 goals in less than 2 minutes as he chases down Wayne Gretzky's career goals record. That and more in our NHL news and notes. Hi, I'm Owen Newkirk, alongside Sam Nestler and Sean Shapiro. 3/4 of the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast. Let's go around the NHL. And, hi, Sean. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thank you.
Let's talk about Connor McDavid's injury. The Edmonton Oilers announced that he's officially out 2 to 3 weeks because of an ankle injury suffered on Monday. They were very, very hush-hush about it, but now we know a little bit more.
Yeah, it was we knew it was bad because it was first shift of the game in Columbus, and then he didn't return the rest of the game. And then on that night, they said he was already returning to Edmonton. So we knew it was going to be bad, kind of from a lengthier spank. So in a way, 2 to 3 weeks for me doesn't feel nearly as impactful as it could have been. Like, I was thinking maybe this could have been longer when he's flying back to Edmonton right away. So I think Edmonton almost dodges a bullet a little bit with it just being 2 to 3 weeks for here.
Sam, you made a joke off the air because it was fun, but do you think this is going to be as big of an impact for the Oilers if he misses 2 or 3 weeks and he's missing, 7 or 8 games?
Yeah, I think the main point is it's not going to be a kill end of the season type of thing or anything like that. It's just the point I was just trying to make is this is a lot different than the Stars losing their top player, right? Or someone that Edmonton's not a thin team, but they are someone that relies heavily on their top players. I'm looking at the stats right now. McDavid and Draisaitl both with 10 points in 10 games. You have Ekholm with 8, and then it drops down to 6, and then all the rest are below 4. So we know this team can score. We know they drive a lot with their heavy guys, Draisaitl, McDavid specifically. And I just think you miss him, right? No matter what. It's the best player in the world. If he goes out one game, you're going to miss him in that one game. So definitely dodged a bullet, but I think that especially for a team that didn't start super hot like Edmonton, they better make sure they don't let this turn into, a 1-9 or something like that, depending on how long it goes.
Boy, it could be, though, Sean, because I just looked at the Edmonton schedule as they play the Preds on Halloween in Nashville. Then they finish their 4-game road trip at Calgary, back-to-back at home against the Devils. Then they host Vegas, at Vancouver, the Islanders, and then Nashville again before going to Toronto. That's not an easy schedule.
No, it's not. And it's one of the inverses of the luxury of having Connor McDavid is you're the only team that can lose a Connor McDavid, right? Sam was like, well, if the Stars don't have anyone like Connor McDavid, they could even lose. So it's there's that. Now, from a Edmonton perspective, Leon Draisaitl is a top 5 player in the world still. You still have a guy that is going to drive this team. You have a guy who, when McDavid was injured before in a season, won the league MVP, deservedly so. So if there's anything that comes out of this from a positive perspective from Edmonton, and then also comes from a little bit of a narrative perspective, is I think there's a lot of people who may have not forgotten how good Leon Draisaitl is, but I think there's a little bit of he's a guy who, if he was playing on any other team we wouldn't be talking about him as the guy who runs along with McDavid. He would be the guy that would lead any other team in the league, essentially. So I think it becomes a bit of a open kind of messaging season that, like, you know what, this is how good Leon Draisaitl is. And like, I watched Draisaitl on Monday night in person Sunday night in person against Detroit, and he's such a force. Like, and he is, when it comes to guys controlling time and space in the zone, right? Like, McDavid is this incredible speed and everything he brings zone to zone, but for me, Draisaitl is just basically a modern day Joe Thornton in the way he controls size and space in the offensive zone. He can pass, and just Draisaitl might be the best passer in the NHL.
So we moved on to Pittsburgh, where last night the Penguins celebrated a loss to the Minnesota Wild, but it's because Marc-Andre Fleury played what is everybody expects him to be his final time in Pittsburgh. And Sam, I thought Dan Rosen from the NHL.com had a really interesting point. He did a mailbag today where he actually agreed with a fan's thought of that Fleury means more to Pittsburgh than Pittsburgh does to Fleury. And that's, I don't think, a shot at how much he cares about the city, just that he means so much more to them because of what he did for them when he played for the Penguins.
Yeah, right. He's one of those guys where we could take away everything he did on the ice, right? It's just one of those people that he used his impact and his platform, whatever you want to call, to do great things, to be part of the community, to be there for fans, to be one of the best teammates. That's all we hear about. It's just everything about Marc-Andre Fleury is just all the stuff he does on the ice, all the stuff he does off the ice, all the stuff he does on the ice that isn't actually related to play whatsoever. He's just been an incredible teammate. He was an incredible leader. He was an incredible goalie during his time there, still is now. And I think it says everything about him looking at what he did while he was in Pittsburgh this week, right? Or before that game was he surprised the youth hockey team and went and practiced with them, which was hilarious and fun for them. Then he gets pranked by his former teammate, Max Talbot, because that's something that Fleury used to do to all his teammates and still does to this day. And then he gets the incredible ovation after the game. That's super moving. I mean, you feel it and you can see it. And I think that while it's true that he means more to Pittsburgh than Pittsburgh means to him, Pittsburgh also means a lot to him. You can guarantee that.
I know, Sean, that you don't get overly excited about the sentimental or the sappiness of it, but there is a big impact there from Fleury. And the thing is that Sam just talked about, the NHL needs more players like him in it, not necessarily just for his ability on the ice, but the ability to keep just a big smile on his face, the personality, the community impact, selling the game. The league is better with players like Fleury.
Yeah, and to kind of where we're going with all this, right? He could have been a lifelong Penguin, and honestly, in a non-cap era, he probably is, right? It's just he was essentially became a salary cap thing. But to me, one of the most impressive things Fleury did is he was the face of that Vegas franchise. Now, obviously, the way he was later dumped in a one of Vezina Trophy and then got traded away for nothing in a salary cap dump move is also part of the Vegas legacy and how that franchise is run. But to me, Fleury's legacy impact is actually better because he left Pittsburgh. If he stays in Pittsburgh his entire career, he's a great all-time Penguin and a good guy. The fact he's gone and he basically helped to grow a hockey base in Vegas, the impact he's had in Minnesota at the end of his career, to me, that's a little bit more. It gives us a better window of who Fleury is completely. The other thing, just to give him a ton of credit, this is a position where this longevity is not normal, right? So it is wherever you think he ranks on goaltending charts and lists or whatever, this type of longevity is not normal. When you're playing as many games as he did and the durability to be a NHL level goalie for that long, that deserves a ton of credit because that to me is the Marc-Andre Fleury story. That longevity now, like to me, after like longevity wise and moving around, like he's right up there with Brodeur now when it comes to longevity.
Let's stick with Detroit for a minute here, or let's go to Detroit for a minute, and a quick talking point, and then we'll get into Alex Ovechkin. Sean, a trade for Utah, and Utah desperately needed this. Olli Maatta goes to the Utah Hockey Club in exchange for a 2025 third-round pick. You cover the Red Wings quite frequently along with the Dallas Stars. Why was this a move that Detroit was comfortable with? Because I think we all understand with Sean Durzi out long-term, John Marino out long-term, Utah needed a defenseman. Why was Maatta the guy?
Because Steve Yzerman runs, well, from a Detroit perspective, it's Steve Yzerman is effectively running his defenseman the way I'm running one of my 1-7 fantasy football teams right now, where I have no issue. I have no issue trying to move out past high leverage decisions for the future. But in Detroit, it was the Red Wings had 8 NHL defensemen, and from a Stars fans have hardly heard that before. Jim Nils has said so many times you can never have too many defensemen. Steve Yzerman had 8 defensemen and decided he had too many defensemen, and the Red Wings had some young guys step up that have really won jobs. Simon Edvinsson and Moritz Seider are now their top pair, and that's going to be a long-term top pair for the next 6, 7, 8 years probably. Albert Johansson was someone who really only made the roster in Detroit this year because he was no longer waiver exempt, and the Wings wanted to see what he could do. And now he is sticking around. So Detroit basically it's similar to the move to and Owen. Remember who was the veteran defenseman that Jim Nill traded away to open up space for John Klingberg? Do you remember? Who was that?
It wasn't
was
Sergei Gonchar, was it?
I think it was Gonchar. Yeah, I think it was the Gonchar trade. So
Yeah.
it's similar to that right now in Detroit, where it's not necessarily. It's both to open up the space for the young defenseman and also open up another roster spot where Detroit's got a 20-year-old Marco Kasper who is only got his opportunity because of injury, and they were going to have to make a move to be able to keep him up or make some other sacrifice for it. So it's a move that way. And for Utah, I like the piece of business. I think Ole Mata is a solid second pairing, third pairing defender, depending on the team he's on. Plays a very simple game, really great locker room guy. This morning, it's funny, I know like a bunch of the Red Wings players found out this morning, because the trade happened like 11:45 last night Eastern. And so players are creatures of habit. They have better sleep habits than the three of us do. And they all, Ole Mata texted the entire Red Wings team this morning to like thank for everyone for the time there and everything like that. And I talked to a bunch of players who found out this morning through that text that Mata had traded it. So he's going to go to Utah and he'll be part of something new there, have some good energy. And for him, he's going to a team that probably has a better chance of reaching the playoffs right now compared to how things are going for Detroit right now.
All right, Sam, back to Alex Ovechkin. He scored twice last night on national TV as the Capitals beat the Rangers. He scored in less than 2 minutes, a minute 47-second span. Will Cooley actually scored for the Rangers in between those two goals. But now Ovechkin is only 37 away from tying, 38 from breaking the great Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record. And I thought this was fascinating because I went and looked at it. The Stars played the Caps on October 17th, and Ovechkin had not scored a goal. He had 3 assists, but he hadn't scored yet. Well, he scored the very next game at New Jersey, and now he has 4 goals in his last 5 games. And now the momentum is picking up, going, where is Ovi? Is this going to be a roller coaster, you think, all year where he scores a couple and everyone says, oh, he's going to do it, and then he goes for a while and doesn't, and then you doubt it? Because I was doubting it after watching him play against the Stars.
Yeah, I think until he breaks that or doesn't, right? It's still possible that he doesn't, but until that happens, I think that every time something like this happens, there's going to be excitement. Oh, here we go. And for good reason. That we just talked about last year. He's done this before, where he's exploded for 20 goals in 30 games or whatever in quick spans. But we don't know. I don't think that Ovechkin is still the guy that can score, 50 or whatever that number used to be. But we got to keep in mind who he is. All it takes is him getting a little bit hot in a couple games, having a game like he did yesterday, and all of a sudden he might have 6 in the next 8 games or something like that. So I think, but what going with your point, it's a very accurate point that I think it's going to be watching him throughout the year, and it's like, oh man, he hasn't scored in 9 games. I don't know if he's going to get another one all season. And then it's going to take 3 years till he breaks the record. And then he's going to score 3 in a weekend. And you're going to be like, oh, man, I forgot Alex Ovechkin can score a lot of goals. He's going to score this in the next 2 weeks. It's just going to be back and forth. Roller coaster ride is the best way to look at it. But it is going to be so fun to watch because it's like he's scoring his first goal every time he scores. You watch him score and he celebrates like it is the Stanley Cup championship goal every single time. And I love that.
And just to wrap it up, Sean, he scored on a wrist shot from the slot on the first one. And then the second one, the Rangers actually won a defensive zone draw, turned it over against the far wall, and Adam Fox jumped a passing route thinking they were trying to set up Ovi for a one-timer across the seam, and then he just goes backdoor and gets a tap in. Great instincts. He hasn't lost those.
Learning.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about the Ovechkin thing is, other than Craig Ludwig telling Sam and I that he's going to score X amount of goals and then just leave to the KHL after breaking the record, which I would love for it's like Lud's bad Hallmark movie for the Ovechkin exit is my favorite thing. Like, I feel like
it either has to happen or you have to write the fan fiction of that.
It's what's the movie? What's the movie, Mr. 3000, where the guy you're
talking about the Bernie Mac baseball movie?
That's Bernie Mac, right?
Yeah, where he hits 3,000 and then he walks away and then they find out that that he actually got like double credit, so he has to go back to try to get 4 more hits and finishes as like Mr. 299. Like, I think that's I really Ovechkin just scores the record-breaking goal. It's right there.
Walks
Takes
away.
his jersey off. Takes his jersey off. A hanger drops from the ceiling. He hangs it up. It just goes up, and he just boards the plane and heads out.
Shakes Gretzky's hand on the way out.
Yes. In all seriousness, one of my favorite actual things about what Alex Ovechkin has done in his career is I love the evolution of his game. I love how he went from one of the most dynamic, power rushing, power forward forces we've ever seen to one of the greatest spot up shooters we've ever seen. And now, as he's getting to the end of the line here and he's going to get to the goals, he's going to have to find some other ways to get it done too. That, to me, if you're going to set a goal scoring record, you're going to have to do it in so many ways. And I think that adds some value to the overall story of this.
Well, thanks, guys. That's Sam Nessler, Sean Shapiro. I'm Owen Newkirk. If you enjoyed our chat today, check out alldlls.com, or since you're probably watching this on YouTube, look at our DLLS YouTube page, and you'll see all the great stuff that we cover for the Dallas Stars podcast on DLLS.